And welcome into another Friday afternoon. Bluegrass Orthopedics bringing you this countdown to game time. Lee K. Howard along with Dave Buzz Baker. Do you prefer Dave or Buzz?
Well, whatever it's your show, whatever you'd like. I'm just here.
We are here to talk about the Wildcats. Of course, Kentucky has a big game against Auburn tomorrow. The Reid Travis-less Wildcats, and that of course was the main topic, Buzz, of John Calipari's press conference that he had just about an hour ago.
Yeah, that's true. Obviously big because of that, but big because it's a home game, and you've got that win over Tennessee now, and you've already gotten a win on the road against Auburn. So you certainly want to hold serve at home. You've got not only a home game here, but Tuesday night against Arkansas. But how does this team, how does everybody react? How do the rotations change? How do people work together without Reid Travis, who's been such a big part of this team?
I think a lot changes without him, even from a leadership standpoint, not just on the court, just what he brought to the team as far as a leadership standpoint. He can still bring some of that from the bench while he's out for the next. In case you didn't hear, Reid Travis, a sprained right knee, expected to be out at least 2 weeks, maybe right around 2 weeks, maybe. Hopefully, I think they're planning to have him back at least by the SEC tournament.
Well, I think that's what they're shooting for, but those things you're just not really sure how they react. Now, the one thing about it, when you talk about Reid Travis being a veteran and everything, he's been through things like this before, been through rehab situations at different points of his career. He's an older guy, so he knows what he's dealing with, and maybe it doesn't seem as daunting to him as perhaps somebody who didn't have it happen before. But still, somebody or some somebodies have got to step up and really do the things that he had done so well over the last month or so.
And now the good news is they were able to come back from Columbia on Wednesday, have that MRI here in Lexington, found out that it wasn't anything like an ACL or anything very serious. He will be able to come back. And John Calipari this afternoon had his first opportunity to talk to the media about Reid since that injury. And here's what he had to say about the health status of Reid Travis.
Now I know he's healthy, I'm happy. He may be out 2 weeks, you ready? 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 7 weeks. It doesn't matter. He's going to be okay. So I'm good now. We'll figure out how we play as a team. And I think they got what I was saying. I mean, you know, don't know how long he's going to be out. But, you know, whatever it is, I'm good.
So you see, Cal, he's pretty optimistic about Reid Travis.
He is. A little bit of gamemanship there, you know, saying he's not really sure. But the thing about it is with these sprains, you really don't know.
Right.
And so as a coach, you've just got to, it's cliche-ish, but it's got to be next man up. And who is that next man? How much can they play? How do you have to play them in terms of rotations and everything? So he wasn't just doing the Cal coach speak there.
Right.
He really knows that Reid is going to be okay now, but he's got to figure out how it fits together on the court.
Let's get to that in just 1 second. I want to say hello to everybody on Facebook Live and on the podcast, wherever you might be listening. Owsley County, Breathitt County, Harlan County, Perry County, Fayette County, all over the place. So thank you once again. So let's get into what you were saying there, Buzz. Who's going to step up? Now, I think that's got to be by committee. A couple of guys have to step up. And I think first and foremost, the guy that Cal's going to look to at least offensively play and be that muscle guy is P.J. Washington. And Calipari had this to say about P.J. this afternoon.
He's a little more of the muscle game. He's got to be ready. And I told him he's going to be begging Reid to come back quicker, because he's going to have to go down there and do stuff that the other two cannot do. And so, but I think he'll be fine. I mean, he's played here at times. He's just in the best shape of his life. He's winning every run. He's leading. He's getting guys to stand up. If a guy's on his knees, he's telling them, let's go. He's learning to play a full game. In other words, I watched Missouri in the first half. He bounced and moved it. And then in the second half, he didn't bounce quite as much. And his game, you know, and I just said, you just got to get to where you can go a full game, and that's who you are.
Boy, here's the thing about that, Lee K. Now, obviously, much more is going to be expected out of P.J. Montgomery. But by the same token, with Reid Travis gone, P.J. is going to get much more attention from opposing defenses. And it'll be, until some other people step up, it'll be more manageable for folks to double team him a little bit, to bump him, to try to body him up and do some things regardless of how strong he is. And like Cal said, one thing that has been his enemy, he's gotten himself into the best shape of his life, but you only take so much of that. and then, he's going to have to get him some rest at some point in time.
Yeah, you bring up a great point because we've seen PJ put together all of these double-digit 20-point games, and a lot of that is because Reid Travis demands attention on that side of the block. And you can't just double-team PJ every time because you had a Reid Travis down there. So I think you're right. PJ will see some more double teams. It will be harder for him to come by some of those points, and that means the other two post players, we're talking about E.J. Montgomery and Nick Richards, those guys have to step up. And Buzz, in my opinion, as long as the two of them can account for at least what Reid Travis did by himself, then this team will be in pretty good shape.
Now, if you remember a couple of weeks ago or earlier last week, right before Travis went out, Kenny Payne was talking about, before they left for Missouri, about how Reid's numbers had actually gone down the last month or so, but what he was giving to the team had gone up exponentially.
Right.
So it's not all about the numbers, but one number to keep in mind, I think, critically, is fouls. With Reid Travis out, that's 5 less fouls. And we've focused on the offensive end, but P.J. Washington has got to be able to guard and stay out of foul trouble. Nick Richards has got to try to stay out of foul trouble, and so does E.J. And so there's 5 less fouls between those bigs. And unfortunately, that could end up being a factor at some point in time.
John Calipari said last night that when EJ is in the game or when Nick is in the game, he doesn't want either one of those guys to try to be Reid Travis.
No.
You can look at him and tell that they're not Reid Travis. No. And they're not going to be that muscle guy in the paint that's moving guys out of the way and playing the mud wrestling type game. He said last night about E.J. Montgomery, he wants him to bring something different to the court when he gets out there on the floor. He said about Nick Richards that he's fast, he's quick, he can move around the paint, he can block shots. He can do things that Reid Travis can't do. But Cal said this afternoon he does not want him to get into a mud wrestling match.
You cannot mud wrestle Johnny David and win. So don't try. Use your quickness, use your length, use what your strengths are. And he's trying. He's such a great kid. I'm going to tell you, he's like a sweetheart of a kid. And he wants to play so well, and he's so hard on himself. And, like I said, you got to relax and go do what you do best. Don't dribble the ball in the post. Just shoot it. Just catch it and shoot it. If you bounce it, they're coming after you.
We've got more on Facebook Live here. We've got a Georgetown viewer, Washington, D.C.
No doubt from up on Capitol Hill. Yeah, they love us on Capitol Hill.
Just east of Lexington. Yeah,
right?
Cumberland, Pulaski, Newport, Kentucky, Corbin, Kentucky. I'm telling you, from far and wide and even out of the state, they're watching. So thank you very much.
Vegas has just weighed in, and they have made Johnny David a 2-point favorite in the mud wrestling match with Nick Richards. Yes,
we might want to set that up.
Right, absolutely.
We might see that
at the end of the season.
So of course, Reid Travis isn't playing, and this team has to go on. They do have a game against Auburn tomorrow.
Yes,
and not just the post players, but even the guards, and everybody has to play a collective better game without any one player missing.
Well, and we've seen what they did when they handled Auburn, I think, not that they beat Auburn, but how easily they handled them down at Auburn. Bruce Pearl and company, they're coming back, and obviously this would be a huge statement win for them because they haven't been the same team since Kentucky manhandled them down there on the Plains. So they've got much to play for now, and with Reid Travis being out, they're probably thinking that only bolsters their chances.
And Wiley is back. He did not play against Kentucky in the first matchup. But you got to think with Kentucky being at home, that's going to play into the Cats' favor. I don't think I'm so worried about tomorrow's game for the Wildcats or even Tuesday's game, which will be tough. Both will be tough. It's that next week. It's the Tennessee game.
True. But you got to get there first.
Right.
And the reason coaches are creatures of habit is because things are going so well right now. And then all of a sudden, just a little thing, whether it's a plane delay, whether it's somebody getting the flu, worst case scenario, somebody who you've been getting big minutes from getting injured, and they've got to somehow come back together and get into what, at least for now, is the new normal.
You talk about those little things that can go wrong, and John Calipari always cautions his players about teams coming into Rupp Arena and just getting on fire, just hitting threes. And he always likes to say, if they hit 20 threes, well, heck of a game.
Right.
We'll see you next time.
Right.
Auburn is a team that likes to shoot a lot of threes.
Auburn will shoot a ton of threes. I mean, easily over 30 a game, and that's what they've done all year. That's a style of play that Bruce Pearl is selling. Cats did a great defensive job against that in Auburn. Question is, what do they do this time around?
They got to play that defense, and here's what Cal had to say about the three-point shooting of the Tigers this afternoon.
They're shooting 35 to 43s. They'll shoot 35 threes. What if they make 17? What's that?
They killed Arkansas making 17.
Then you lose. So your job is to make sure if they shoot 35, they're hard 35 so they don't make 17, but they may. Anyway, are they going to shoot them? Oh, yeah. What if you really guard them? Really shoot them? They are shooting them. That's what they do.
And, of course, the flip side of that is if the Wildcats shoot threes, they're not going to shoot 30 to 45, but if the Wildcats shoot 15 to 20 and make them, then they're going to be in good shape.
That's true, but I think the last thing you want to do if you're Cal is wanting to get into a three-point shooting match with Auburn. Because from a tempo standpoint, that not only favors the Tigers, even though the Cats are at home, but from a proficiency standpoint, Kentucky's had great success with getting back and putting the ball on the deck, taking it to the rim, and open things up for those outside shooters.
Okay, that game is tomorrow afternoon, 1:30, right here on WKYT is where you can watch the game. We will get you set with a Wildcat warm-up at 12:30,
right
ahead of the 1 o'clock CBS pregame show. By the way,
tip-off at 1:30.
Tip-off at 1:30, that's right. Hyden, Kentucky, Hazard, Manchester, Drakesboro, right here in Lexington. Everybody watching. We don't want to go, though, without showing you. You know, John Calipari has this tendency to get a little animated at certain press conferences. Sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's joy. You know, today he was kind of all over the map, wouldn't you say, when you listen
Swaggy
to him?
Cal.
Swaggy Cal. You could tell he is in a pretty good mood. And so what I did, we went through the whole press conference and took some of his funnier moments throughout the
best of Cal.
Best of Cal, and we're bringing them to you right now.
Bouncing, moving, alert, running, sprinting, sitting, bouncing. I need a sub. Because it's really hard. It's easy to just lean on somebody and mud wrestle. That's easier. You cannot mud wrestle Johnny David and win. I just hope the NCAA, in their infinite wisdom, our fans are, well, wait a minute. But you never take yourself out. You took yourself out. You play every minute and shoot every ball. I do read tea leaves pretty good. You don't think I'm happy about that? I'd be ecstatic. I mean, I don't care what he had on. When you saw him, like, wow. We're like, it's a wonder both shoes didn't blow out. I'm a guy that doesn't say much. I keep quiet about stuff.
Yeah. When have you ever known John Calipari to keep
the tea
quiet
lever
about anything?
The tea lever.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that is the basketball preview.
Yep.
I think Kentucky, as long as they take care of business, they'll be fine without Reid Travis tomorrow, and they get a win over the Auburn Tigers.
Going to be critically important for them at home to get off to a good start, not only for the obvious reasons, but so that they don't all of a sudden start hesitating and, Travis isn't there and they're out of sorts. So first 5 minutes for me are going to be critical.
Football news. We have a little bit of football news, something we reported earlier in the week that has now become official this afternoon.
Right. Brad White is going to be moving up to be the defensive coordinator, so congratulations to him. They'll now go out and hire another linebackers coach, and Vince Marrow gets a nice raise. He's now technically the highest paid tight ends coach in the country, but it's not for coaching tight ends. He does a great job with that, but it's the recruiting. And he now also has the title of assistant head coach as well. Yeah. That came out just within the last half hour.
I think when you see that salary that Vince Marrow is making now, it just speaks to how important he is to the football program. Tight ends coach, yes. Recruiting coordinator.
But on this show where we're talking football and basketball, Rex Chapman reminds me all the time, and I forget it, Vince Marrow was an Ohio Mr. Basketball.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
You feel like if he got you posted up, he's going to score on you.
I don't think he was a poster when he played high school, but you're right now. You ain't getting over the top of him.
All right. Well, and speaking of Brad White, the NFL Combine is next week, and the Wildcats have 8 players up there, so we'll be covering some of that, and we'll bring that to you next week.
It's a great event. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much again for joining us on this countdown to game time. I want to thank our sponsors once again, Bluegrass Orthopedics, for sponsoring this segment. Hope you're enjoying it, and make sure you comment on the Facebook Live. Let us know where you were watching from. And once again, next week in the afternoon on Friday, join us once again. For Buzz Baker, Lee K. Howard, have a great weekend, everyone.